share from a professional gemologist the frequency of these stones, and she's just had me holding this gorgeous one. This is Doris Hangartner. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Will you tell us,
Yes.
what exactly do you do?
So I would like to start with my personal journey. I grew up in Zurich and in Davos. Every holiday we would come to Davos. And I have two older brothers, and they went hiking, and they came back with a very normal and plain looking gray rock. But they had chopped it open. So if you would put the two halves together, it was just really a plain gray rock. But if you would look at it from the inside, you had the sparkles, you had almost like a starry night within the stone. It wasn't crystallized, but it was kind of like a glimmer. But I was a little girl, and I was so fascinated with what's in a stone. And ultimately, my career path or my journey took me to gemstones. And I did my gemological courses in 1991-92. And by the time I started buying stones for my own company in 2012, I specialized in the newer stones. And I believe that these stones are actually showing our changing world. It is Paraiba tourmaline. Tourmalines have been around for a very, very long time. But the definition of Paraiba is it's a region in Brazil, and they're a copper and manganese bearing blue to green tourmaline. And it was a gentleman, Mr. Heitor Dimas Barbosa. He had this vision that kind of behind that hill, in that arid country in Paraiba, in the Batalha mine, are these luminous gems, and they were discovered in 1987. So if you think how recent many of these new stones came out, like mandarin garnets came out in 1991, they're orange. Tanzanites are kind of a blue with a purple and lilac. They came out in 1967. Tsavorite were discovered also in about 1967. And we see how they evolve and how different they feel from a diamond, an emerald, sapphire, or ruby. Now, the Paraiba then subsequently was found in Nigeria and Mozambique in 2001. But I love the story on water. I think they're an aquatic gem, and I think they really show the age of Aquarius. And if you look at it, it is kind of like a pregnant belly. I think it really looks very, very feminine in its shape. And if you think of the four aggregate states of water, you have frozen, liquid, gas, and plasma. And to me, and this is really my personal view, but to me the diamonds are more the frozen water. If you walk in Davos on a either sunny day or during moonlight, and you will see the light reflected on snow, it's kind of this geometric quality of the diamond, which you have to cut to really bring out the brilliance and the shine. You have to have the perfect proportions, the right percentage of the table. The way you look at a diamond is also quite directional in the eyes. The eyes really go in. They go kind of into the facets, into the culet, etc. So in my opinion, it's more of a reflective nature. They really shine up with beautiful light. Whereas the Paraibas, you can turn off the light. If we would dim it here, they would almost glow more. So to me, they're the liquid water. And if we look in the world, when I started working in 1992 at a diamond company, I would say, let's meet there underneath the clock at 12 o'clock. And I didn't have a phone, so in case anyone was late, we had to wait. And today we have mobile phones. We're going away from centralized to decentralized. If you look at the frequency of this gem, it's highly, highly vibrational. And it really seems to buzz. So it's showing also the whole rise of crypto, etc. I think it's really going away from the more masculine. It's also, it's going away from the flawless, the perfect, the large, the pure, just the seed, the less individual, to the a lot more individual, where we have all the different shades of colors. We have from blue to green, all nuances that are really very aquatic. They actually have inclusions and show the inclusions, and it's more about their luminosity about their glow, including the inclusions. And it's the value is by the way it makes you feel, the color, the joy, the pleasure of the stone, and it's not just the perfectness. So I really resonated a lot with what Tara said before, and to me they have a song, and you can imagine it. I can't hear it, but you can really imagine like a harmonic in it. And if you compare the way this stone would sound, and you compare it to maybe a ruby, it's a completely different song. And it's not just by color, it's also by material. If you imagine you listen to a tune on a piano or a cello, you get a different resonance with it. And if you have the same tune played on different instruments, you get a different resonance. But also if you play different tunes on the same instrument, you get a different resonance. So the difference between a green stone, if it's a Merloni mint glossula garnet, a mint tourmaline, a light green Pariba, they all have such a different feeling. And I would like to invite you to explore gems with your eyes closed. How do they resonate with you? How do they make you feel? What senses? So also I'm a foodie and I love chocolate, and we created gem chocolates just to capture the essence of a stone. And it's not just this colored chocolate. There's really kind of a lot of thought in it. And if you really open yourself up to how would your gem or any rock you see, how would it taste? How would it make you feel? How do you resonate with it? What song does it sing? I just feel like it's such a deeper connection to a stone. And Paribas are 350 million years old. And Zurich garnets are about 1 billion years old. They really are stardust. And they hold wisdom, information, knowledge. And if we connect with them, I believe they actually help to ground us and connect us with something calmer and higher within ourselves. And then we become so present and so solid in it that we kind of go more inside. It's really a sphere where we're completely in the center, and then automatically we just resonate out hugely.
Can I ask you, how is it that you choose a gemstone to bring into your life, and then how much can it actually affect your state of being or your life?
I choose the gemstones from a gemological market point of view, but then also they have to kind of feel happy. So there are stones that really are empty and don't have a lot to say, like when you meet a very beautiful person, but once they engage in a conversation with you, like, okay, let's move on. And it's the same with stone. You have stones that are, blah, the certificate is phenomenal. And then you see the stone, you're like, let's move on. And there are other stones that I'm a bit critical on the diamond market. I think they've been sometimes very much seen as a monetary currency. And I feel some stones really show that. It's if you really look at a stone, it's as if you look at a plant, and the plant kind of opens up, and you have the same with stones. You look at a stone and it connects with you or not, and that's how I choose my stones. They kind of have to be, let's say, a good frequency, however we want to define a good frequency. But I feel they're such powerful beings. They're so powerful, and we can really be a great team together. Because if we kind of honor the gem, they help us to be more centered within ourselves, and then we are more spherical, where our field is bigger, and like that we can make wiser decisions and we find more happiness. And I believe we then also move on from gems once we develop and we kind of outgrow a certain level of gems, or we unlock something within us which helps us to then grow into a different gem personality. So I feel they're quite deep, and yeah, I choose them on a gemological point, market perspective, as an investment, but also what is a gem match and who could it match?
Is there ever such thing as a negative match and negative impact?
Yes. Sometimes you can see it with people. You see a person and they're kind of like the wardrobe of the stone. The stone is way too powerful for them, and it squishes their energy. It really squishes their presence. And it's like the person fades in the presence of the stone. And there's the other where the stone is way too weak and the person has such a big personality, in a positive way, a big presence, and the stone is just still in a kindergarten level. So I do believe that. I also believe that if you match certain stones together, you have stones that really like being with other stones, and you have stones that are like, no, it's just me. And you have other stones that really like a little bit of an entourage, and you can really see it. They're like people. You can see life in gems and gems in life.
That is so cool.
But it's really very true. I once had a morganite, and the lady wanted it just set, which is kind of the sibling stone of aquamarine and emerald, but in a very peachy, salmony color. And it was particularly soft-spoken and kind of like a beautiful rose, which just has the scent, but a bit shy almost. And the lady wanted it set without any diamonds. It was like, the stone was much happier when it had a little bit of diamonds around it, kind of holding the fort.
The stone demanded diamonds.
It was very happy once they came. And there was another stone, and the person really wanted a very blingy ring, but it was like, no. The stone is such how should I say, had a very strong presence and was very happy to hold the show on its own. And you can feel it. If I would describe it to you, you could feel it. You can kind of see it when you put other stones around. It like contracts, or it just doesn't flow as much, and you can really see a lot in stones.
I see a lot in the one that you've placed in my hand, actually, and I see that the perfection of imperfection, the uniqueness of each stone. I feel like this one is tremendously powerful, to maybe that I would be the wardrobe for this. Gorgeous.
I think you're a perfect
really
match.
you think we're perfect, but you match people to stones. Is
Yes,
that right?
I do. Yeah. And just to go into the imperfection, if you imagine you dive into the ocean, you will see kelp, you will see fish, you will see sand wafts, etc. If you're in a plane and you look into the sky, you see clouds, and you see all these inclusions in the stones. If you look down into the land, you will see like veins of rivers. Here you see almost like veins and inclusions. They have tubular inclusions, they have hollow tubes, and it's really just open your mind and see all of life in a stone and just scale it on a different level.
I have one question, if no one else has a question. Actually, this is one that I've struggled with gemstones, because I do love them, but I feel bad taking them out of the ground. How do they feel about that?
There's some stones which are totally okay with it. So I think there's 3 answers. There's stones that come out. You find them on the fields. In Tanzania, people walk and just, or used to be before mining got very big, but you could really just find them on the fields. Some stones, again, please just open your mind and follow my narration, but you can feel they're kind of like angry. they're just not happy the way they came out. Maybe compare it to when a baby was pulled out of the womb with, it needs a bit more time to arrive. And there's other stones that really carry earth wisdom and just are ready to show it and bring it out. So again, it's extremely individualistic, and again, I would love to invite you to just open your mind and look at stones more with your heart and feel them. And I think mining is a very tricky subject. Personally, I always end up saying that ultimately what I find most important is that you really honor the stone when you have it. So it's out here, and if it's here, then at least let's really see it and honor it the way it is. And thank goodness there's now initiatives to really help more sustainable mining. And I think it's finally catching up. But again, gemstones, they hold so much material, physical value that it just renders a lot of potential for other sides as well. So let's just at least be kind to the gems when they're here.
Are there any questions for Doris?
No, but that was amazing.
Marita's got one.
Yes, how does the match happen?
It's intuitive. Usually I go by the first picture that comes, and then I'll trust it, and I'll bring the stone, and then I'll talk, and just hope I don't upset the person. And often, and then it's a journey. If it's right, then you feel it. It's actually my daughter gifted me that. It's she's quite a feminine girl or lady now, and she put on a pair of moonstone earrings, which are just by the name very, very feminine, and they're so captivating because they have this shimmer, but you can't really see inside very well, so it's more again a mysterious stone. And she was already very happy and glowing, and then she put on this quite large moonstone ring, which she now has, and she just looked up and she's like, "Mommy, look." And it was this part in her eyes that just really opened up, and it's this deep joy. It's when your soul comes out and it's just flowing. And it's not loud, it's not talked, it's just presence. And you're in kind of also in a peace, and you're just in bliss. It's just joyful, but very calm.
Where do you have your shop, or how can we visit you?
In Zurich, in Gassen 6 on the 3rd floor, so it's above Bindello. And I had a shop on the ground floor, but I really like this gem oasis where you kind of come and you really let the stuff behind, and you really enter and you take a gem bath and you connect with the gems, because you can always connect with a gem. If you see this stone, you can ask it anything and we'll chat. It has a way of communicating with you. It might not verbally say hello, but in dreams, or if you hear a song on the radio, you will just get your messages, and they're very slow, so they really have a lot of patience, and it's as if they change along with you. So the more you develop, the more different sides also they show. But it's just trusting their guidance and then bringing out and talking.
Got what question in the back?
Yeah, I actually have two questions.
Two questions.
One is how, I always wondered, how do you define that a citrine is attracting, for example, wealth, or tourmaline is against protection and whatsoever? How did that ever, like how do you?
It's something I don't really follow too much. I once was interested in Bach flower remedies, and there you also have the categories. I prefer to be more individual. What does wealth mean for you? Or what does protection mean? I have a pair of tanzanites, and I have a beautiful photo of a tanzanite I call Shield of Protection because it's cut like a kite. And the story with that is that tanzanite to me is very, very highly vibrational and almost a more ethereal stone. If you think of sitting in a concert, it's not right next to the violin where you hear the most, but maybe where you're sitting. And I feel it's similar with tanzanites. They have this beautiful blue with this lilac and purple. But they more work in your light body, and it's more their light body than connects with yours. And that is where it's so incredibly powerful. So to answer your question is when you then connect with the stone and you rise, or your frequency elevates, or you become still and calm and happy in yourself. Fear, danger, anger has a different smell, and it just then doesn't meet anymore. That's how you rise above. So personally, I don't go by the book. I don't like the dogmatic. I try to go into the heart and I don't know. I mean, I think there's so much more wise than kind of I can ever be. So I'll just follow their guidance.
And your second question?
Yeah, thank you for that first. And the second is it true that I have a lot of crystals at home. I'm far away from your knowledge, but I try to connect with them. Is it true if some stones actually break, that they took too much of your negativity on themselves and actually break them, and what to do with them afterwards, because they're carrying the heavy energy, if it's true?
I think the Asian culture, I think China with jade, for instance, if the bangle breaks, they've really soaked up an illness.
Yeah.
I like the story a lot. I'm super protective of my stones, so I always hope they stay alive and kind of don't break. But I do believe in them moving on. So, they get stolen, or you sell them, or they break, and they kind of move on. They've fulfilled their journey with you, and somehow they can't say, I would like to buy a plane ticket. So they have a way of moving on. Again, I feel stones are very powerful, and especially Paribas, they clean themselves out. So I don't really fear for them. And I think we shouldn't feel that we are burdening. So I try to see the stones stronger than us, but I believe they have a way of just changing. So the breaking would be also changing form, and then you either recut it. But again, it's very comparable with a human. We're born, so the stone is kind of a solution in the ground, and it has heat, pressure, time, like the baby, and it somehow comes out. Then we have this rough crystal, which is very pure in its essence, but then it's actually, how do we form it? How do we give it shape? And sometimes we're hurt and we're bruised in life, and then we need a recut, and suddenly we have a more modern cut, or we actually bring out a different light. And I would like to invite you to also see it positively. That maybe also excess weight of a stone, it breaks, okay, then it has two halves. Maybe we had two parts in us that wanted to not be united, but just, I think, explore it a bit deeper and just trust it.
It doesn't die. That's what
It does not die. Even 1 carat, 1 gram makes 1 carat, so it's kind of, you lose more than 50% of the stone when you cut it. It's really sad. And it just washes down the drain. It's in the water, so it doesn't die, but it's the same if you think of a rose bush. Sometimes it's also good you cut away the out of bloom roses so that the others have strength. And if you think of the stone, it's a cabochon, so it's rounded. This could also be kind of turned around. You could cut the crown, you could cut the pavilion, and then you have a large faceted stone. I describe it as with hair, the way we're born. Some people have very beautiful, fine hair, and then the hairstyle might be more this way. And other people are born with very curly, thick hair or whatever. And it's the same with the stones. The way the crystal grows kind of dictates how to most optimize the cut or have them cut the most beautiful. Again, it's very personal, but sometimes then we change. And most of Paribas actually are heated. If you compare that with sapphire and ruby, there you, especially for an investment aspect, don't really want that. Here it's desired. It's more this fire of transformation, because then this neon comes out, this absolute glow, which again I find indicative of our times with the pole caps melting, global warming. It's very indicative of how we are, is you see it in the stones. And if you watch the new trends in the stones, it's very beautiful to see what the earth also gives free at this time. It's a bit when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And to me, they're wise masters and teachers.
Thank you.
Oh, I love that.
Can you share with me a little bit about what your thoughts are on pink tourmaline?
I was thinking of bringing one, and I put it back into the safe. So it's again what pink. So for me, I love tourmaline. I'm dressed in tourmaline. I always say it's a bit of a strong, tough stone. It's directional. It's you put on the subwoofer. Again, I like it. My mom was American, so I always say I'm a bit louder than the typical Swiss. I like the oomph of the stone. I really like it has a strong presence. It's quite a profound stone. Also, the Vikings, they used to navigate with it. The question is, how is the pink? So the one I was choosing is more like your shirt. But then I put it back because, I didn't want to carry too much. But is it more a hot pink? Is it a raspberry pink? What's in your mind?
It's a yeast in it, like maybe raspberry.
So what does it mean to you? How does it make you feel? And where in your body do you feel it? So kind of if you play with it, if you imagine it flushed in your body, or you imagine sitting in the stone, where does it work with you? How does it empower you? How does it lift you, enhance you, make you more you? That you really come out and you are your best you.
Hi, I also collect crystals, and my son also collects crystals, and my mother did as well. I've often wondered about how sophisticated consciousness becomes when it sort of gets simpler and simpler, right? So you've got the all, and then you've got sort of celestial bodies, and then you've got humans, and then you've got plants, and then you've got stones,
and then you got stones.
Right, and the idea that I've been led to understand and that I really like is that they're all conscious. They're just different levels of consciousness. And so if we accept that stones have consciousness, then my question is, do they have personalities? Do they have emotions?
Yeah.
And can you communicate with them? And if so, are some people more able than others, or is everyone equally able? And how can you enhance your ability to do that?
Thank you. I think they have personalities. I wrote a book on Paribas called Purely Pariba, and my third chapter is Gem Personalities. So yes, I very strongly believe in that. And I'll just briefly point on that, and then I'll bring in the consciousness. So if you imagine you're in space and you look to the Earth, you see America, North America, South America, you see Australia, you see Eurasia, whatever. You zoom in. So I live in Zurich, which, is a very different feel to Paris, to London, to New York, or a beautiful field. And you have, let's say in Switzerland, you have the different cantons, and you will feel a different vibe when you go to the different cantons, to the different communities. Or if you go here to the mountains, you will find an area which is softer and another one that is more strong or highly vibrational. So imagine where the stones are found. It's the same. You have this area where you find Paribas, but then you have the different veins. You bring out the stones, and ultimately you have the personality. They all hold their own frequency, their own vibration. Think of a tree. You're in a forest, so you get a feeling for the forest. You see it. Is it how do you say it? Mischwald, Laubwald, whatever. You have the different trees, but then you stand next to this one tree, and you have a connection with that one tree. And I feel it's the same with the stone. The consciousness. I believe we live in this dimension, in this world, and we have our consciousness, and I do not do drugs, so I don't really know how that works, but I believe that if one might have a consciousness expanding drug experience, who says that this crystal is still crystalline color in a fixed crystal grid? It might be fluid. So let's not limit our minds just because we're in this physical plane. I spoke to a friend of mine who studied chemistry, and he said copper. So that means it only could develop with two stars having collided, because otherwise there would not be any copper. Also, I feel they're like acupressure points. If you do foot massage, you touch points on your foot, they automatically put you in touch with an organ within your body. I feel it's the same with stones. They connect you with a higher consciousness, and I feel the different stones have a different higher consciousness. Again, that's why I believe these just came out so recently and so rare and scarce, because as with people, you don't find, again, this should be politically neutral, and I'm not trying to, but too many Dalai Lamas, just out of ease for communication. Or I describe them as the dolphins in the gem world. To me, dolphins are pristine animals. I find they have a huge consciousness. And yes, I kind of believe that, but I cannot describe more, and I really always want to bring it back to our senses. And again, if you afterwards maybe hold the stone and connect with it, you have your own chat with the stone, and you see what it communicates with you. It's about your own connection.
One more question. Are you familiar with monoatomic gold?
Excuse me?
Are you familiar with monoatomic gold?
No, I'm not.
I'd love to know what you think about that.
Yeah, maybe you can describe it to me then, and then I will be able to.
Sure, yeah. So the sort of famous story is an American, about sort of 40 years ago, found a very large amount of white powder on his ranch and sent his men to go and clean it all up. And a few weeks later, it was back again. Where is it all coming from? Cleaned it up again, came back again. So eventually sent it off in a vial to a laboratory and said, "Can you tell us what this stuff is?" And the laboratory said, "We've absolutely no idea what it is. It's not on the periodic table." Sent it to another laboratory, same thing came back, sent it off to a sort of mystic who said, "Where on earth are you getting this stuff from?" I train people for like weeks, not me, this guy trains people for weeks and weeks to get them into a state where they can get into theta brainwaves. And he said one teaspoonful of this stuff and it takes you there like instantly. And it was subsequently discovered that it was gold in monoatomic form.
Cool.
And it can be extracted from the Dead Sea, and it's meant to be the quality of it. It's not meant to be chemical, but magnetic. So when you take it as a medicine, but it's just back to the sort of resonance.
I think it's all frequencies, so thank you. I will definitely look into that. If I may add just one more story on especially this stone, so it's the gem personality water. And if you think of water as being H2O, and you imagine one H is the human in physical form, and the other H is the human in non-physical form, which is the H2, or it's like spirit or soul around you, and that in itself creates a sphere, and that's the O. And to me, that's the smallest denominator of life. And it's kind of, if we're not here, we would not experience this in this form. And we had more H2Os, we have the vast ocean, we add more H2Os in humans, so we have the human population, or we have a beautiful large parima. But it's how do you connect with it, and what frequency does it have, and how does it resonate with yours? And it's a consciousness. It's where, if we look quantum physically, we're not super dense in matter. So maybe we connect more with stones on this level. Having said all this, they have a physical, gemological, life properties, value, But I think like everything in life, to me, they have a song, they sing, they have a sound. I can't hear it, but they have a sound. So imagine how the sound is for you. Connect with them.
Well, thank you, Doris. Yesterday we listened to Hans Martin's Heart song. I think the recurring theme here is that we are all frequency. It's just a matter of paying attention, really paying attention, listening, connecting.
And really, just to finish the aggregate states of water, this is liquid, but also the way we look at Apriva, even if it's faceted, it's yin-yang, it's more feminine. We gaze in, we drink in the color. It's a very different feeling. The gas to me is if you look over a huge body of water or the ocean and you see the sky and it's just not quite clear where's the cutoff line. It's the same with these stones. They almost seem bigger with their glow than they physically are. And plasma, I once heard stars are plasmatic in nature because they constantly collapse in each other and that's why they glow. I don't know, I love the story. But they just don't seem super calm in there. It's like there's so much life in there. So enjoy your gems.
Yeah, maybe you can all come up and connect with this one right here. Thank you very much,
Thank you very
Doris,
much.
for sharing
Thank
your expertise.